Welcome to the Embodiment Podcast. This show is for you if you see the body as more than a brain taxi. It's for people interested in coming home to the body as a holistic aspect of who we are and how we live. Episodes contain practical tips, exercises you can take away, and interviews with specialists from around the world. I'm your host for today, Mark Walsh. So on the show today, Rani Michelle. So I met Rani when I was in New Zealand, and she is an embodiment trainer, a facilitator working with intimacy, authenticity, gorgeous human being. So there may be flirting on this podcast. I'm just gonna warn listeners now. And you're so welcome. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. It's great to be here and great to see you again.
Where are you in the world?
I am in Auckland in New Zealand.
And we have to sort of say the date because everything's changing so fast right now. But this 25th of March as of recording, and not too much virus there. Things are pretty chill.
Well, actually, it's just kind of gone a bit crazy the last few days. As of last night, we've officially gone into lockdown in the whole country. So, just preparing for at least 4 weeks at home, pretty much, which is very interesting and big changes.
We'll definitely come back to that, but let's start with your history. So, what was your interest in the body? How did you get interested in all things body, Rani?
So, my journey started with yoga. With embodiment, and for many years of my life, it was how I kind of managed depression and anxiety, and then after many years, I really started to get more interested in more somatic movement and dance, and really using that as a way to, understand and discover myself better, and find my own empowerment through that. And then that led me into working with sexuality and intimacy and erotic expression and empowerment through exploring different elements of the feminine with men and with women. Yeah.
Okay, so where to begin? What do you love doing? What do you just love doing with embodiment? Let's talk about the good stuff before we talk about things that are fucked up at the moment. I really, really love creating deeply sacred, ritualistic spaces for people to explore their authentic expression and their own unique magic and their erotic expression. Yeah. You just used every buzzword of every workshop in Bali and Koh Phangan. I think we got authentic, erotic expression, with magic, we got them all. So give us a sense of what that actually looks like for listeners that are going, maybe someone's there, Steve, does yoga twice a week and he's listening to the podcast and he has no idea what all that means. Paint a picture of what that could mean.
Okay, so one of the bodies of work that I work with is called Dancing Eros, and what we do in that is we explore different archetypes. So, which are feminine archetypes. They're essentially elements or aspects of yourself, different aspects of yourself, different.
Me
qualities.
too.
Everybody,
me too.
yeah.
Everyone has this side. Okay. Let's hear it. I want to hear about my feminine side.
It doesn't matter whether you're male or female. We all have feminine and masculine qualities within us. It could also be called yin and yang. So it's incredibly beautiful, actually, to witness men explore their feminine, because it's so conditioned
out of them, or like, and generally in society, men are very much conditioned to be the kind of alpha male, you know, the strong warrior,
Rani,
provider man.
I'm fucking loving doing alpha male shit right now with this virus. I'm like hunting, shopping, and bringing it back to my wife. It's amazing. It's amazing. But when this is over, I'm probably going to need to get back in touch with my feminine side. So give me give me some of these archetypes. Hit me with some of these archetypes.
Yeah, so what we explore in Dancing Eros is the maiden, the wild woman, the erotic mother, the priestess, and the slut. And there is like,
you know who I like best.
There is many archetypes, but that's just what I'm using in this body of work.
I want to hear about all of them. This sounds amazing. Okay, so let's start with the slut, obviously. So no, which one do you want to start with? Hit me up here. I want to hear about one of these.
Yeah, so let's start with the slut. So the slut is your she's like your erotic confidence. She's like your joyful, bubbling, flirtatious, completely magnetic, playful, fun.
I have no idea how to access that at all, Rani. This is going to be difficult. Okay, I think we've got that one covered, so we better move on. Give me another one.
Okay, so the maiden is often can be challenging for men often. So it's basically the most feminine in essence, traditionally.
I can do it. I can be fucking maiden. Fucking do that.
And her gifts really are in complete receptivity. And surrender, and exploring vulnerability as a strength. It's often seen as a weakness in the world. So slowness and softness and surrender and vulnerability and receptivity.
Lovely. And why might someone need that in the world today?
Yeah, well, I feel that like we spend a lot, it's natural to spend a lot of time in the head, right? And thinking and doing and achieving and meeting the goals and earning the money and providing and being a successful human in this world. And actually, the Maiden archetype teaches us to just surrender into being and check in with, or like connect with our own goalless sensuality and sensation. So like even in sexual intimacy, right, we can often be doing it from the head, like, oh, if I do this, I'm gonna turn them on, or if I'm in this position, then I'll look sexy or whatever, and that also can come from conditioning of how we should be and look, and this can really actually get us in tune with our sensation and our feeling and our bodies on a more intimate way without having the goal to reach a certain point, to reach the orgasm or get your partner, your lover to reach that place.
There is it's interesting, the word surrenders come up for a few people talking about the current situation we're in globally. Actually, there's a certain surrender to a new reality that's being enforced as a practice really on everyone. Okay, one more archetype. Let's hear another one. Okay, so
let's talk about the wild woman. So
right, bring it.
Yeah, she's been one of my greatest gifts. So the wild woman is like essentially the undomesticated, like don't give a fuck, full permission,
doesn't give a fuck what other people think. It's like the kind of uncontrollable, untamable, wild, dirty, ugly, sweaty.
So this is the one of the middle-class white girls want to be and never will be? Is that what you mean?
Well, maybe, they could explore the wild woman archetype. It's the death of the nice girl and the people pleaser.
Okay.
So,
for someone who's conditioned to be very nice to everyone, to look after everyone else's needs first, that not giving a fuck could be a stage in kind of liberation, even though it's maybe not the most mature in some ways, and I have definitely seen in sort of tantric type circles, wild women being celebrated as just people who are a bit of a nightmare getting away with it, because it's like, well, just grow up. And they'll have this sort of idea that it's something that's more wild, but that could be a very useful for someone that's a bit too good, a bit too people pleasing.
Yeah, well, I think as well that, like with all of the archetypes, there can be shadows of them. Mm-hmm. And actually the wild woman and the maiden work really well together, because the wild woman would be like the protector of the maiden, and the maiden actually keeps the wild woman in heart. So this exploring this or embodying this archetype also gives a great opportunity, I find, particularly with men, or often with men, to express rage in a healthy way, because actually we're not taught that that's okay in our society. So but it's not about kind of projecting rage onto somebody else. It's like, well, okay, I'm in this safe space. I can be witnessed and held by somebody else just to release and move through that. But it's not about kind of blaming or projecting.
Mm-hmm. So you're not just talking about these things, you're stepping into it. There's dancing, there's exercises, there's, expression. Yeah. There's I mean, it might sound obvious to me and you, but that's not always obvious.
Yeah, and like for me, I guess why I'm speaking to this, because it is a form of creating a really sacred and safe and ritualistic space where these different elements of ourselves can be explored.
You said ritual a couple of times, so people might have an idea of sort of someone, in a pentagram, or maybe something from the Catholic Church, so what do you mean by ritual? I know it's a rich topic.
Yeah, so ritual for me is creating something with intention and really like honoring the sacredness of life, and what like ritual is a way to manifest or to create and call into life. Yeah, and I think like when there's a deeper intention brought to it, it's like drinking a cup of tea could become a ritual. It's like your morning practice of like, okay, I'm going to like set this time to have my tea and be really intentional with it and be really present with drinking your tea.
Cool. What do you think the world needs right now out of all these kind of feminine archetypes? What do you think is really called for right now?
Yeah, it's really interesting times right now. I feel that what's happening currently in the world is it's really actually calling us inwards and calling us to slow down. We're kind of being enforced by the governments to stay at home, but that's bigger. Like I feel like almost the earth is like, I've had enough. Like I can't take this anymore. Just stay at home, and it's beautiful.
Go to your room and think about what you've done, humans. We're being put on the cosmic naughty step, aren't we? But
absolutely.
I don't know. Is that just like hippies trying to make sense of the chaos, though? Do you know what I mean? Like the Revenge of Gaia type stuff. Like it does seem like it has a quality of that, doesn't it? Like the planes have been taken out of the sky. You know, it's like, I sent you small Swedish girl, you ignored her, so now I'm sending a virus. You know, like it's like I'm upping my game here. You know, like, but it could just be a fantasy of sense making in a bizarre, senseless world. But there is some quality, isn't there, of being called to take a pause.
Yes. And I think that it's natural for the human mind to try and figure out ways to understand what's happening and to make sense of it. And but I don't think that it's like the mother Gaia having revenge on us. I think it's just natural evolution of like, okay, like we've been in the masculine, really, like taking and growing and expanding and creating and actually, like, I feel that we're going into more collectively, more of a feminine phase in the earth. And the feminine is yin, the feminine is inwards. The feminine is receptivity and listening to what's going on rather than being out there and doing and achieving.
There was someone said today, when you can't go out, you have to go in. You know, I thought the name of the movement. And saying that, there is this it's, you know, very structured order, you know, police telling people what to do. Everyone's celebrating these, you know, beautiful Spanish policemen on the streets and stuff. I mean, you know, what could be more kind of like old school authoritarian masculine than police telling people to get indoors? I mean, it's, you know, and it doesn't look very like a feminine resurgence to me. It looks like something else.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the authorities trying to control the situation. But I think, like, on a larger collective scale, this is such an amazing invitation for us to actually go deeper into our inner world. And for those who don't have some kind of embodiment or spiritual practice, to actually start. To open to a curiosity about that, because I feel like a lot of the world is disconnected from their bodies, disconnected from their spirituality, or so their inner world. And I think this is kind of like I really feel that there's this space for an amazing shift in humanity through this.
There's an invitation to go in. There's a potential for a shift. I think we're definitely going to be talking about before. I've already heard people say, before the virus, I did this. You know, and I'm like, wow, it's still pretty early days. I don't know when people are listening to this. And I was like, well, before and after, you know, I used to be now I'm, you know, after the apocalypse, you know. But
check in with me 3 weeks into my self-isolation.
And there's definitely stages. I've talked to someone in New York today who's been on lockdown for a couple of weeks longer than England, and you know, Italy, it's different. You know, I'm doing these daily embodiment circles with people from all over the world. There's some New Zealand friendly time ones as well, but so at them I'm meeting different people in different countries, and you definitely see different stages, like an adrenal spike, and then an exhaustion, and then a depression, and then, you know, there seems to be like a whole grieving process happening. And I'm curious where that's going, obviously. And some of it is also, there's also this other thing of, just like I was on the phone just before I talked to you, just someone who's booked into one of our courses later in the year. And I said, look, we just don't know. And we don't know anything, and you don't know. Like, everybody's in this kind of liminal state of their lives being slightly on hold and just not knowing.
Yeah, and it's like that can be really scary, because we are used to like wanting to know and understand and have structure and plans and organization. And like before this kind of hit really massively in New Zealand, just before I was about to start a course, and I was like, it's not like I don't feel to run it, so I cancelled it. And I'm not booking anything until in terms of in-person events until because
how are you making a living now? What are you up? You doing Skype stuff, Zoom stuff? What are you?
I'm doing stuff online, and I'm very grateful to have an
amazing government in New Zealand who is financially supporting a lot of people as best they can. So, because basically, like, most of my work has gone. So, and a lot of people are in the same boat everywhere. So, yeah, very lucky in that department. But it's interesting the unpredictability and the unknown and how scary that can be. And actually, in my experience, journeying through embodiment and dance and the feminine is like being able to fully drop with trust into the unknown is a really beautiful thing. And I feel that there's, it's almost like from nothing, everything is born.
This word feminine, some people love it, some hate it, but what would be a feminine response to this crisis? Taking notes here, by the way, if you can see me typing.
I feel, like a feminine response would be to practice trust and surrender, and probably just like trusting that we like that we're held, and that we are part of some, we're part of nature, we're part of something so much bigger. And
still wash your hands though, kids, though, right? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Like taking the precautions is important.
What is this going to do to intimacy? I mean, I'm noticing people walking around each other. Obviously, my hugging is reduced to one human being now. I normally I'd be doing workshops, hugging left, right, and center. No lovers. Into my intimate situation has changed. Some good things, some bad. I'm seeing much more of my wife, which is great. We're not driving each other too crazy yet, so we're doing pretty well. We've got some good communication tools. So and what's this going to do? Intimacy, like during lockdowns, but also 6 months from now, 2 years from now, like cultural changes. Oh, just for the record, everyone listening, there's an orgy at my house in September. I'm calling it on now. Everyone needs something to look forward to, so I'm just going to invite all the listeners to that.
Okay, great. I'm booking my flights.
Booking into September, baby. September. I don't know. We need to book a date. But so what is this going to do to intimacy? What do you reckon? Break from the interview to tell you about our shop and a deal we've got on there, and also about some events that are coming up. So if you go to Embodied Facilitator /shop and use the code podcast 50 is the code, you can get 50% off anything in the shop. And what have we got on there? How to design training, trauma for facilitators, breath work, leadership, resilience, life purpose. There's a bunch of books, there's a bunch of e-courses, mostly for facilitators, trainers, coaches, yogis, different ebooks. But that code will give you 50% off anything at all there in the shop. So that could save you, let's say, up to £100, which is about $120. So well worth having that code. Go to embodiedfacilitator.com/shop. Also on that website, you will see embodiedfacilitator.com/event-calendar. Just look under events under the main title. You'll see all the stuff we've got coming up for events. We regularly have free online events. If you're interested in embodiment, we have them on coaching, life purpose, marketing, all trauma, all sorts of things. So have a look at the events page. You can see the different one-day events we've got coming up related to the conference and all kinds of other stuff. Okay, so all of that is on embodiedfacilitator.com. And remember that code there. That code is podcast50 if you want 50% off anything. There you go. A good deal. Back to the interview.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about this yesterday because, like, I've noticed with some of my family members yesterday, we were having a laugh because it was like we were doing the COVID dance. So just like moving around one another, not getting too close. And I was like, wow, how is this going to affect humanity long term? And
it is very like a bizarre feeling not being able to connect intimately with those around me as like, how I'm used to. And I hope that it's not something that kind of sticks and affects us.
Often these things
long-term.
do, though, historically. You know, like when someone sneezes, we say, bless you. That's hundreds of years old, that habit.
So maybe in 100 years, humans are going to be doing the COVID dance and staying 2 meters away with each other.
Hey, you're from New Zealand. You have pretty big personal space anyway, right? Like New Zealanders are normally more than 2 meters away, you know, anyway. So.
We love hugging, though.
That's true. What is it, the West Coast nod that your Prime Minister does? The little, the little nod instead of shaking hands. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I think like in terms of short term, this is, you know, like it's important to look at the positive. And right now there's a great opportunity to create deeper intimacy and communication with your partner.
The people you actually fucking live with that you now have to spend time with. Oh my God.
Whoever you're in lockdown with.
It's going to be a lot of divorces and a lot of great relationships after this, and not much in the middle, I think.
I think it's going to be a very testing time. And I think as well, like something that came up yesterday for me and my partner is that, you know, we've moved in together to be in lockdown together. And
I've seen a lot of people do that.
How it's actually really important to create space for intimacy and deeper connection, because we're spending a lot of time around each other but not actually in deep connection. So it's really important, I feel, to actually create the space for that, to create the space.
You need erotic
that's
distance.
intentional.
But without distance, there's no eroticism. If you're just constantly in each other's face talking about the washing up, there isn't that mystery, there isn't that polarity. Like that can all get lost really easily.
Absolutely, and I think that's just as important, like making sure that there's individual space available for everyone, and not just kind of taking the being around each other all the time as like for granted. Actually, like create space for beautiful, deep, like connection.
Nice. I think being a bit conscious about that, people don't have to go like full tantric dolphin on it, but you can kind of just go like for 5 minutes, let's really talk and really listen. Or let's do like a 5 minute extended hug. And like, you know, some kind of like little spaces like that might be smart. Huh?
Absolutely. And likewise for those who might be in lockdown without a lover or a partner, it's actually like there's like space to create deeper intimacy with self, and I guess that kind of comes back to going inwards, but also you know, like becoming your own lover. Developing a sacred self-pleasure practice.
Great. Can you say what that is for people that aren't used to spiritual wanking? So creating space to essentially make love to yourself, you know, but like not just like 2-minute wank, right? Yeah, we're not talking about an internet porn quickie here, right? Something else is going on. A bit more somatic, a bit more feeling, a bit more breath, a bit more time and space.
You know, like light some candles, take some deep breaths, have some oil, and like really take your time to enjoy your body.
Self-seduction. Nice. And I do feel for people that are on their own with this. You know, one of my friends I talked to yesterday, she was just feeling really lonely and needed a hug. A guy I spoke to today, I was coaching. He was like, I'm thinking about calling my ex-girlfriend and getting her to move in just because otherwise I'm not going to be able to have sex for months. And I'm like, I'm not sure if that's a good idea, mate. You know, it's like, and he was like, well, I've got these other potential lovers. I'm like, you're going to move them into your house potentially for months? Really? Like, that's a big move. That's a hell of a first date. You know, meet someone on Tinder and be like, come and live with me for the next 3 months.
Yeah. Great test to see if you really like each other or not.
What about, do you think you could just like all these like single people walking around the park together, keeping 2 meters away from each other? Isn't it going to build up this, like, you know, when you couldn't have someone when you were a teenager and you weren't allowed to have sex with them, or you couldn't go to their house, or, you know, isn't there going to be like a forbidden fruit thing going on here?
Yeah, maybe. It'll be interesting to see what unfolds.
Interesting. Okay, I guess we don't know. Let's just see.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Maybe like on the other side, everybody's going to be having orgies at their house.
It could be a fucking wild summer. If this thing burns itself out by August, it's going to be a wild summer. Can you imagine how festivals are going to be like after this thing? Woo! Or maybe that's insane. Maybe it just stays around long enough that it becomes the new normal to be quite conservative with touch. Like a hug becomes a very special. Hugs is like maybe close family and lovers only, you know? Maybe rather than this kind of hippie hug everyone all the time kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, it could go either way, right? that elbow hug or the full orgy.
Before you shake someone's hand, you have to kind of do a quick medical test, you know, have a quick temperature check. And Tinder's got a new setting where you can upload your latest medical test details. Yeah. Okay. Wow. So any other aspects of your work we haven't talked about that you'd like to feel alive for you right now?
Yeah, I guess what I really love as well is to like working one-on-one and through movement and embodiment to help people really like step into their power, and that might be sexually or with intimacy, or it might be like with their self-confidence or with their self-love. To really like support people to create a deeper connection within themselves, and then and that kind of like reflects in how they show up in their relationships and in the world.
So what's your relationship advice then for everyone now who's on lockdown with their partner, assuming it's a relatively healthy, good relationship and not, you know, their ex or someone from Tinder? So like what is your recommendations for people?
I feel like a couple of key things which are always really important, but maybe more so now.
Everything's magnified now, right?
Yeah. Is communication, like having really clear and open and honest communication.
What does that mean? Sorry to keep jumping in, but people say, you should have good communication in a relationship. What does that mean? Like asking for what you want, boundaries, like what is good communication?
Yeah, I think like being able to be really honest and open with where you're at, with how you feel, with what you need, with what your boundaries are, and being able to express that, being able to express triggers when they arise, without necessarily needing anything, but just being able to bring it all to the table, but from a kind of space of self-responsibility. So as like I can express my emotions and how I'm feeling without blaming it on my partner or expecting him to fix
it's not you made me feel, I'm furious, therefore you have to do this. There's a sense of okay. So that's a really nice combo, isn't it? They're able to express the feeling while simultaneously saying, well, this is my trigger and my emotions and my responsibility, and this is how I am right now.
Yeah. So that is good communication for me. So like I said before, creating both, like making sure that you have your own space still, and also creating space for deeper connection and intimacy. And I feel like as well now it's just really important to have a deeper level of kindness and compassion and understanding that everyone is having their own experience around this, and everyone will be, like, I know for me, like, I'm having waves of different emotions throughout the days, and
it's really up and down, isn't it?
Yeah,
so up and down for people right now, and sometimes quick, sometimes like grief and acceptance, like in an hour. Or like there's definite like ups and downs in a day. Like, oh my God, I've seen people on embodiment circles crying because it's so nice to connect with another human being. And then afterwards, I'm lonely. And then it's, I'm angry at the government. And then I'm getting like racist against Chinese people, and then I'm like over that and I'm hating myself being racist. And it's like all in like 12 hours or something,
Yeah, it's totally intense. And, like, I think that it's important for us to remember that it's all like it's all okay. It's all like there's no right or wrong way to navigate these very like unknown terrains. So and we can keep coming back to our hearts and practice acting and communicating from love and compassion rather than reaction.
You think that's going to help, really, being loving rather than reactive?
I think that's a
good place to start.
It's a good practice, right? And it's not like we're just going to click our fingers and have it. Like, I think it might be a lifelong journey for probably most of us.
You know what? I can say this. I've never been in an argument with my partner and afterwards went, wish I was less loving in that argument. You know what I mean? Or, it was really, really good that I lost my temper there. That really helped.
Well, I think that, like, loving doesn't have to mean not expressing, if anger's there, not expressing. Loving is not expressing it. Because actually then you're not expressing your truth. But it doesn't mean that you have to be in a rage, an outward rage at your partner.
Okay, well, hopefully a few good communication and being able to express emotion while still taking responsibility for it. A few useful pointers for people.
Yeah, and I feel that like this is challenging times on various levels, and one being that we are not. Well, I know definitely in New Zealand we're not used to staying at home with like one or two or three, however many people, and being in a kind of small space with people all the time. So I think that will bring up a lot of challenges, and it's actually a great opportunity to deepen our inner work, because through relating we are essentially receiving reflections of ourselves and our own triggers and our own stories through relating and connecting with others. So it's more intense, but it also gives us this opportunity to really look at our shit.
We all love opportunities to look at our shit in the personal growth world. In German toilets, they've designed the toilets literally so people can look at their own shit. I think it's just there's like a pan where people they examine their shit. And I think in Germany, in certain cultures that's normal. In British cultures, we flush it away before we look at it. So it's an interesting cultural thing. Some cultures like to look at their own shit.
Well, I think probably a lot of the world just wants to flush it away and get rid of it and pretend it doesn't exist, Everything smells like roses. And
I always look at mine. Yeah. Let's talk about something that's not in any way virus related, just to give listeners a fucking break from, because it can become like the subject, right? It can become like, I was saying to my wife tonight, I said, let's watch a movie that has not outbreak, let's watch a movie that has nothing to do with viruses or emergencies. just do something else, talk about something else. So is there anything that you really enjoy or love to, part of your work or your practice that we can just totally not relate to viruses for the next 15 minutes before we finish?
Yeah, I guess like part of my personal practice and work that I love is dance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like the virus dancing. Let's talk about dance. Let's talk about dance. What do you love dance?
Like not so much as in like a formed dance, structured, choreographed dance moves, but like free flow, authentic dance is it's really actually one of the ways that I started. Actually, before even yoga, I used to dance a lot. I used to go to festivals and just like dance and dance and dance. So it's always been a way that I really have loved to connect to my body and find, I guess, like a form of expression. And I feel that it's such an amazing way to help us process and integrate and move through whatever is happening in our lives at the moment. Yeah. Or at the time. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people think that they can't dance, and yeah, it's beautiful to see people start to kind of break down that belief and explore moving, because I think we think that like we can't do something when we think that it has to be a certain way. Whereas I feel that like the more deeply we connect to our bodies and become embodied, the more we're actually able to just like listen, like to be moved by the music and to listen to how our bodies want to move and what feels good for us.
The inner groove. How is it in New Zealand? Let's talk a bit about New Zealand, because we've had very few guests on from New Zealand, maybe two actually, very, very few. Had the guy Paul Bone Yoga, one other one, I think. It's like, it's a long way from anywhere. Sometimes it's not even on the map, it's not even there on the map. Like in a nuclear war, I'm told it's the best place to be. What's the scene like for embodiment in New Zealand? Is there a lot of yoga, a lot of conscious dance? I mean, I saw a little bit of it when I was there, but I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, there is a lot of yoga. There's slowly becoming more kind of somatic work, which is exciting. Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen came to New Zealand a few years ago. Okay. And just in the last 2 years, there's been a kind of big, I guess, like expansion of ecstatic dance and conscious dance events and kind of conscious festivals. And
where's the hub of it? Is it Christchurch? Is it Auckland? Like,
well, I'm in Auckland, so I'm mainly aware of what's happening here. I also have just started working. I've run my first event in Wellington recently, so just out of Wellington, and I know in Paikakariki, and I know like there's a big dance community there. So yeah, it's definitely like I moved back to New Zealand 3 years ago from Melbourne, and the Melbourne scene is very rich. Yeah. And in the 3 years that I've been here, it's really been growing more and more, which is great to see. Yeah, and
very pragmatic, down to earth people. I can't imagine, some of but it's also got this magical quality, hasn't it? This Lord of the Rings, fire bubbling up out of the ground, and it's sort of in some ways very English and normal and like British 1950s, and in other ways like this magical pixie kingdom on the other side of the planet. It's sort of a mixture of those two. If people out there listening don't know, New Zealanders are like Australians, but much nicer and calmer and politer, and just less in your face. And we have a lot of Australian listeners. And let me just say for the record, I prefer New Zealand. I prefer it. So sorry to our many Australian listeners. But okay, anything else on New Zealand before we wrap this up?
Yeah, no, I guess like New Zealand for me is a very kind of grounding place. It's slow.
You're much slower than me. I'm noticing that today. There's a big difference in our speed, right?
Yeah. And actually, it took me a little while to adjust to being in Auckland. From after being in Melbourne for 7 years, I was like, wow. And
this is your capital.
Well, Wellington's the capital, but Auckland's
that's the biggest city, right?
Yeah, but it's very slow, and it's very like I feel like it almost comes from the earth. It just has a slow kind of grounding, nourishing, healing vibration.
Healthy.
Yeah, that probably transmits through a lot of New Zealanders. Yeah.
Nice. Shout out to my friend Heidi out there. She'd say this was choice. So, yeah. All right. Well, I think we better leave it there. Rani, this has been wonderful. So 2 things to close. Where can people find you on the internet?
So currently I run everything through my social media channels. So on Instagram is probably my fave. I am Embodied Bliss and Rani Michelle or Rani Michelle. If you put in either, I will come up. And then Rani Michelle on Facebook.
Here we go. Copy profile URL. I'm already following you. I should warn listeners that if you are someone who likes women, then Rani's pictures can be quite distracting. I unfollowed you for a while just because of the level of distraction I was getting in my workday when I was going on Facebook, but I'm following you again now. So there we go. So highlights of words and images there. And closing message about the body. Rani, this has been a delight. Obviously, I knew it would be. Listeners, apologies if flirting got too much at times. So closing message about the body, Rani.
So I feel that the body is like a deep well of wisdom for us. There's so much wisdom that we hold in our bodies, and the more that we can connect and learn to listen and surrender and be present to our bodies, the more we open to that inner wisdom and intuition and aliveness.
Beautiful. Drinking deeply from the deep well of the body. Stay safe and well, listeners. Rani Mitchell, thank you so much for joining us.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a total pleasure to be here.
Some ways to get more, to give back, and to get more involved now. So the biggest request I have would be to share the podcast with your friends, people that you think would really enjoy it. Email it to them, put it on your social media, tell them about it, old school. Really appreciate that. Equally, if you want to support us financially, you can go to Patreon. That's patreon.com/Embodiment Podcast and give us $1 an episode. And I'd say they're well worth $1. So that's less than £1 if you're in UK-ish. So please go there. On the embodiedfacilitator.com website is where this is hosted. Most people I think listen to for iTunes. iTunes, we'd certainly appreciate a review. The way iTunes works means that a review means more people will find it. iTunes regards it as more important for searches. So even a couple of sentences review really does help as a little thank you to us. And if you want to go to embodiedfacilitator.com, you can see the actual, links to the sites. There's comments on there. The Facebook group tends to be where people discuss things. So if you go to put in the Embodiment Podcast into Facebook, there's a page which is relatively quiet and a group which does have some discussion on. So I will reply to things personally there. So also on embodiedfacilitator.com website, there's all sorts of freebies there. There's videos, there's free ebooks, there's ebooks you can buy. And of course, there's our newsletter list. If you want to stay in touch and learn about things like the Embodied Facilitator Course and our next Embodied Yoga Principles teacher training, then go to that website and you'll see a little pop-up and you can get the newsletter through there. Okay, so I think they're the main ones. Tell your friends, pay us some money on Patreon, give us a review on iTunes, send us your email if you want to be on the newsletter list, and get involved on the Facebook there. Bit long. Pick whatever you like that works for you.